Fragments of Silicon in the morning? That still happens?
All right, welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon, the Daylight Interviews. Joining us this week is Mauro Annetta of Flatline Studios.
Hi, Adam. Nice to meet you.
Uh,
I'm glad of being here.
It's good to have you as well. Right, so how we like to get started, we like to get to know the person behind the studio, the game, and all of that assorted business. And we do this journey by beginning with this question. What got you interested in video games, both on a personal and a professional level?
To me, it was kind of a natural thing that happened, mostly because I've always been like playing games since I was a child, and it's more or less the thing that I do most of the time, playing games since forever. So at one point, it was I I get to make games, like I can make games, which is the thing that I love to play. So it was pretty natural in that sense. I start playing the games and then I just want to be the one that makes them, right? So I think it was that mainly, right?
Not a uncommon story for our guests. In fact, that's probably the most common rationale I think we've come across. It's played games as a child, wanted to make those games as an adult. But that's usually the seed. We also
Yeah.
inquire about, the growing phase, if you will.
Yes.
So, what precipitated your jump into what we like to call the commercial arena? Like you're selling a game on Steam, that means you've reached the level where we consider it to be professional.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah. I think for us, it was we started the company Flatline Studios with my brother. So it started more like something to do, with people we love. So it was us and some friends. So in a way, it was like let's let's try to do a game, which we would love to play, which is Into the Grid, right? And it was like, how can we do it, right? And we had some savings that we could use. We also have these friends, right? Like some of the devs in the team are friends. So in a way, it was like let's try to jump on fully on making a game. Let's try to do it, and we kind of jumped on it right away, and we invested what was like our savings, but we also since we have very trustworthy people in the team because we were friends and we are friends, it was also like we can share royalties of the game, do some kind of stuff in that way, in a way that we can all share the risk more or less, in different levels, of course. But it was mostly doing our dream development, right? Like let's try to do a game we would love to play, and we were thinking about this cyberpunk universe for a long time, and it was like let's do a roguelike deck builder. Like it's something we always wanted to do. I personally always wanted to do, and my friend and partner as well, Alvaro, which is the other game designer in the team and also founder with me and my brother. So it was like let's try to do it, and we went kind of all in on it.
Okay. So it sounds like there's 3 people at Flatline.
We have 3 people is like the founding members, right? Which is my brother and our friend Alvaro and me. And then we have around 6 or 7 more people. We had more at one time, then we had less. We have some people that are more like freelancing, coming and going.
Yeah.
But yeah, the core is 2 developers, and we have a narrative designer, and we have also the 2D artist that makes the art of the cards, and then we have the 3D and all that stuff, which is more freelancer, like coming and going.
Mhm.
Yeah, that sounds pretty typical for game development.
Yeah.
And how long ago did you make this choice? I.e., how long has Flatline existed?
It's been around 3 years, more or less. We like the first iteration of the game was very different. We started doing like prototypes of the game, even outside of Unity. But then once we moved into Unity, we had the game that was like only combat. Then we added the map, but then we changed the map entirely to more a 3D isometric style like it is right now. So it's been more or less 3 years, and the game changed so much. Like we had to practically remake the entire game a couple of times, but that is I think one of the prices you have to pay to make something, I think, good, right? Or something that you can see had a lot of iterations on it, right? And it's more polished.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is usually how these things go. There are exceptions in every case, but generally you're doing a lot of prototyping and just building framework before you get to the actual game.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it is worth noting, we'll address it in a bit, that Into the Grid, it's not complete yet. It's an early access game.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
it's still being built as we speak, as I understand from the patch notes and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. We still have more or less 1 year more of development.
Yeah. Though before we go into early access and all that stuff, it's probably a good idea to introduce the game properly and talk about what it is, besides, just like a roguelike deck builder.
Yeah.
Indeed. What's the premise? What are you doing? What's the world? And so on and so forth.
Yes. So Into the Grid is a roguelike deck builder, but mainly in this game, what we tried to do was combine the roguelike deck building aspect with the dungeon crawling experience. This game is like made in 2 parts that interconnect themselves, which is the map exploration on one side and the actual card battling in the combat, right? And thematically, in this game, you play as a runner, a hacker, basically a net runner for people that know their cyberpunk stuff. And what you do is you are hacking the corporation servers in this kind of cyberspace, this digital virtual reality you enter. And in this maze that is the corporate server, you are fighting the corporate defense programs, that are called ICE, and you are getting more programs for you to fight versus them, which are represented by the cards. And then you also explore this grid to get more resources, get more information about the corporation, and in the end, what you are trying to do is reach the final boss of the grid, and by beating the final boss, you are like accessing the mainframe of the server, right? So you are getting all the secret information and stuff that the corporation is saving.
Indeed.
I guess should ask.
And I think you noted it sounds like it's a very cyberpunky story. Like, and on that note, what are you doing to like differentiate your world from, say, like Cyberpunk 2077 and all of that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, in our world building, like we have written a lot of the world building that we use for this game, aside from the game. So there are like we have on our website and on the wiki we have like lore that it's outside of this game, like that maybe it won't appear in this game ever, but we made the world building anyway, because what we wanted to create is a cyberpunk setting that is a little bit more down to earth in a sense, so there are no flying cars, there is no elevator to the moon yet, but there is a lot of stuff that is deepening this connection with the virtual reality, right? And this thing about going into cyberspace, and hacking by you entering digitally into somewhere, and mostly this political thing about corporations, which is, I think, one of the main things about cyberpunk, right? This political unrest, right? Yeah. So in that sense, I think it's we want to do a cyberpunk that it's more relatable in a sense. It's not that far in the future. It's more like, let's say, in 50 years, we already have corporations controlling the world, which is something that is already happening. So we are not that far.
No doubt, no doubt. And likewise, you've made this game a roguelike deck builder, which is another genre, game type, however you want to quantify it, that's rather popular on the indie scene. Do you think that by making that aligned with cyberpunk, that makes it stand out?
I think cyberpunk is one of the things that can separate right now us from other roguelike games, because most roguelikes, card roguelikes, are more fantasy oriented, right? But I think what we wanted to do mostly is innovate with the mechanics, not so much the theme. I think the theme helps as well, because there are not that many cyberpunk roguelike deck builders. But I think the mechanics for us was like our main point of, let's make something that really feels different from, let's say Spire or all the other games that were before us or exist right now, right?
Indeed. And I can definitely see that, because, well, we have had no shortage of roguelike deck builder type games for review. It is truly a hot trend on the indie circuit right now. And yeah, we've had cyberpunk games, but those tend to be, I think the last one we covered a couple of weeks ago was, oddly enough, a first-person dungeon crawler. So it's definitely a mix that's not being done too much, which is helpful.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
with
there is.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
Go
Sorry.
on.
No, yeah, I was going to tell that you are right. The first person that I didn't mention, but that is another thing that like we try to go for a more, let's say, immersive experience, right? This is why we also try to make the graphics stand out more as well, because most roguelike deck builders are also not that stunning visually, right? Because they don't need it as well, right? It's not needed, for a card game to look very cool, but we wanted to do it because it helps with this immersion of you being the hacker, right?
Indeed. And it's probably worth burrowing a bit deeper into the connections here, i.e., what does it take to turn a cyberpunk setting into a card game?
Well, I think it's. I have to think a little bit the exact connection, but I think for us the aspect of the cards, being your programs. Like we come from playing a lot of Android Netrunner, for example. That was one of the biggest inspirations for us, for the mechanics and also for the world building. And for us, it was very natural to, we can make a deck builder that you use your cards as programs, and it makes sense that they are, very evocative in a way. Sometimes they are very mystical, like they are very mysterious when you see the cards in our games. Thanks to the great artists that we have as well, the cards look really, like something ethereal, something that you can only see on cyberspace, right? So for us, the notion of getting more cards, and upgrading your cards and upgrading your digital programs to face these digital enemies, it was very obvious to make, right? And then the exploration as well, because we have these procedurally generated servers, and this maze, which is the grid. It makes sense for it to be procedural as well, right? And a roguelike.
Indeed. And is the entire structure a card game, or is it just the player character who's using cards here? As in, do the enemy attacks, do they attack like using cards?
No, they only attack with their intent each turn, like in most of these games, right? Like they have an intent that you can see they are going to do, and then you have to plan your turn, and then you pass your turn, and then they do their subroutines. But it is mainly card game, but it has this mix with the dungeon crawling aspect, which I think if I had to say one of the things that really makes Into the Grid different, it's that part of the exploration, right? We don't give you a path of 3 ABC and you have to choose like in most other games, but we let you explore, and you have to make the decision of what it's more important or what it's not. When to take the risk, where to go, what to do with each node in the map, and you have all these resources. So it's way more complex, right? In a way, it's a niche within a niche, in a sense. It's a very complex game that has like two games in one, in a sense. This map that is like a board game and the actual fighting with the cards.
Right. So before I dig in further on that avenue, I would be remiss if I didn't ask my colleagues here who actually play card games if they have any particular questions in this regard.
I don't really have anything, honestly. Like, I've just been kind of sitting over here playing it.
Right. Not sure if Golix is around right now. He has to prepare for work and such. So, all right. So on that note, given the complexities on display here, how difficult is it to keep balance?
Oh, that's a great question. That is actually the most difficult thing to do, I think, because, I mean, we are on early access. Some part of the early access is because we obviously need the funding. So every one that buys the game in early access is helping us, making the process faster and putting more things into the game. But the other thing that we really need about the early access is the actual statistics, right? Seeing the people play, getting their feedback, seeing their discussions in the Discord, which we have every day people there talking. We have some players that are like more than 100 hours of playtime that are constantly, discussing strategies and such. Because balancing this type of games, it's very difficult, and ours is even more because with the exploration that we have, by giving more freedom to the player to explore, we are also giving up control as the game designers, right? So that control we don't have. We need to be very careful to balance it well, because the player, when the player is free to explore, they might, see something that they shouldn't very early and then break the game. Or there are some players that maybe don't know how to play very well and they cannot advance because the game is asking you to make the correct decisions every time. And that's also not cool, for a player that is new. So there is a lot of iteration involved, but also a lot of feedback and watching people play, and obviously stats, from the access.
Right. And well, I suppose the question that beckons here is, what have you learned from all of the feedback so far?
Well, one of the things is there is a very big gap sometimes between people that cannot win the game, not even in the easier difficulty, because the game is hard if you don't come from that background, right, of playing card games or playing roguelike deck builders. And there are the other people that are very good playing card games, and they can beat the final difficulty very easily. So it's very hard to find that middle point in which you can give a challenge for the experienced player, but also don't frustrate the new player, right? So that is one of the things we are focusing on right now, and we are releasing a patch next Monday that will address more difficulty modes and the like. In the future, we will solve this because we will have a progression system, because the game will be a roguelike, let's say. You will have ways to upgrade your playstyle and get better things. So that curve will make the new players be able to learn the game as they progress, and the pro players will have more challenges in the end to be able to maintain them challenged, right? So I think that is one of the things we are mostly focusing on. But there are also some other things that we consider that are issues as well, like the run length. Sometimes the run is too long right now, sometimes. And that is something that we're also wanting to address. But it's very early. Like there are a lot of systems that aren't in place yet, because of being early access. So we know that will change with more systems as well.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And I suppose a variant to this line of questioning is, as I suspect the player base is wanting to do, how have they been breaking the game intentionally?
Yes, that's a fun question because it's very funny, the ways that you can break the game. But I would say the most prevalent way, let's say, of breaking the game, it still is kind of, but it was even more in the past, but making this very, small deck, like a micro deck, let's say. So your deck have only 2 cards, and then you just cycle that card infinitely, because there are some effects in the game that let you, draw a card every time, or maybe there are some combos with the command system. Like, that is another thing in our game that it's difficult to balance, which is you have the command system, that part on the right, that you can use with the beam resource, the yellow resource. So these commands give the player a lot of agency into doing more stuff. Like, you are playing the cards, but you are also using these commands. And sometimes that combination empowers the player too much, and the players end up getting these kind of broken combos that they can loop infinitely, and you can basically kill the final boss of the game in one turn, because you have an infinite turn, basically. Something that it's cool when it happens. It should happen, and because it's very cool, but it shouldn't happen so often, right? It has to be something weird. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure it's nothing that some tweaking can't remedy. Like, at least hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely.
And another question that I have is, how do you avoid... I don't think it has a name, so I'm just going to call it elite syndrome. As in, people get good at the game. You guys are the developers of the game. How do you avoid a closed feedback loop of, this game is too easy for the elite players. We got to make it more difficult, and on until, things get too difficult for the average player?
Yeah, it's a very good question. It's something we are still figuring out, right? As new players enter the game. I think one of the blind spots we have right now with that is that we are not gathering stats yet. It's not something we have. We want to have it as fast as possible, but we are also focusing on the progression system, which is huge, right? And most people are waiting for that. So once we have stats, it will be way easier, because we will see for sure, what is happening on each difficulty in the game. But one of the things is trying to get feedback with the new players. And another thing is we pay a lot of attention to the reviews as well in Steam. And the reviews that are, the questions that are on the forum as well, or on Discord. But I think one tool we have right now is the difficulty modes, because those are what allows us right now that we don't have the progression that will help make this more organically. With the difficulty modes, we kind of we can make the new players, make sure the new players are playing a version of the game that is not overwhelming and that they can beat, and they then can build up until they can beat the more difficult levels, right? And also adding more difficulties on the other end, right? And right now in this patch we will be adding a new mode, like a difficulty above of expert, right? Like the ultimate difficulty, let's say. So that helps us to to separate these two kind of players, so we don't have to make the game more difficult for the new players, but we can make the game more difficult for the pro players.
It's probably as salient a solution as you're going to get with these kinds of things. Are you planning on just having this be a single player experience, or are there any plans for multiplayer?
Yes, it will be entirely single player. Yeah.
I figured as much. Roguelike deck builders aren't actually renowned for their multiplayer capabilities. Like, that's pretty much a separate genre, as that, multiplayer card affairs tend to be, like actual card games, so to speak.
Yeah, actual competitive. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, and as I understand it, this game's been out in early access for like 2, maybe 3 months.
It was November 10th, so yes, around 3 months. Yeah.
Yeah. So how has the game been faring so far in early access sales-wise?
So we had a good start. I think we are kind of like, we are niche, obviously, right? We are not making a big thing, or being viral or anything like that. But we are having a very steady, sales number, and also people wish listing the game, which is even more surprising, or like even it makes us very happy, because you see, like, for every sale you do like 3 wish lists, right? So it multiplies, like what we clearly see is that people are really moving away from early access, which is kind of obvious, right? Like I myself, I'm kind of ignoring every early access game for a while now. I just want to play, the polished experience. So in that sense, we are getting a lot of wish lists. The sales are not that big, but they are helping a lot to keep the ball rolling, and being able to continue the development as we want to. And we have the biggest impact is on every sale, obviously, right? We entered on sale on the 20th, so a couple of days ago, and we already saw a spike in sales. But the biggest thing, I think, is the wish lists and the reviews, because we have a really good score on reviews, and that is huge in Steam, right? The more positive reviews you have, Steam will show to more people, and then the people also want to play the game because they see the very positive reviews. So that is the best thing right now, getting more reviews and seeing that people are really loving the game.
Oh, that's good to hear. And yeah, like, the goal, I suppose, is not even to be a sales sensation out the gate, but yeah, to sustain this game to completion at the very least.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So where is the game now in terms of development, and what's your upcoming roadmap looking like?
So we have right now, we are building the progression system, which is the biggest system in the entire game, right? Once we have that in place, everything else will be way easier, because this is like the big boss, because it has all the unlockable stuff, all the progression, all the perks that you will unlock that will let you play the game differently, right? They will support different play styles and the like. And all these economies that you will have, when you play and you do something specific, you unlock something, you gain experience to upgrade some of your basic stuff. So that it's like the most important thing right now, because many people are asking for that. And we are also seeing, while we develop it, we see how much it's going to improve the game feel as a whole. It will be completely different in a way, in a very better way, right? It will really make you want to play more runs, and feel you are building towards something. Not only playing better the game, but also unlocking new stuff and making the actual roguelike loop way more rewarding. So that is our next step, and it's the biggest one. So we will take a little bit of time for that. But once we deliver that, everything else will be way more streamlined, right? We have the third character, we have some other systems that we need to implement, but there are more content based. It's not like they are, entire systems. Like we have the event system, which is kind of an entire system, but it's just something more that you encounter in the map, right? So it's big, but it's more streamlined.
Yeah, that makes sense. And okay, so this is a question that may be hard to nail down at this stage, but it's one of the most critical questions when it comes to early access, and that is, are you on the path to 1.0? Do you feel like you will be able to reach that, full release state on the timeline you presented to the community?
Absolutely, yeah. I think we are on the tracks to release the 1.0 in this year, right? If it is at the end of the year, it will be, but we really are compromised, all the team, to really finish the game this year, because it's also a personal thing right now. We've been making this game for a long time now, and we really need to be over with, in the sense of complete it and say we made this game and it's great and people love it, and we already see that. So it's we are really hyped about it, and we are giving everything to be able to finish it this year, and I think at the pace we are going, we should be able to do it. Yeah.
Okay, that's perhaps reassuring to your audience. Like, it's nonetheless, it's good to hear on the surface. I will say, you never know when things take a left turn and it gets delayed to next year, but at least it sounds like you're on the path.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And of course, another one of the most critical questions when it comes to early access releases is the price progression. As in, what is the game's price now, and is it going to change when it reaches 1.0?
Yes. So the price right now is 15 USD, and it will probably be 20 on full release, or 25. It will depend on the final content that the game end up having, because we are still, planning on the entire scope of the game, mostly about the characters, and how many characters and how many content will it be, aside from the core systems that we are going to have 100%. So it will depend a little bit on that, but for sure the game will be more expensive on full release, right?
Okay, duly noted. And once again, this is one of those questions that may not be in the view, but still has to be asked. Do you have any plans post-release, as they call it? Or is it just going to be like balance patches, bug fixes, the like?
I think it will also depend on how much content we end up having on the full release. Like if we see something that we would like to add, and we, let's say, didn't have enough time to make, and it's something that we can add later, I think that is totally possible that we do it, because there is also a reality that when you release the 1.0, you get a lot of a very big influx of of resources, right? Because many people will buy your game, and then you have more resources to maybe finish something that you couldn't do in time before. So that is something that could happen, but I think it will entirely depend on how the 1.0 looks like when we launch. The balance aspect and that stuff, we will probably keep touching it because the more stats we have, the better we will be able to tweak it. So I think that is one of the main things that we will continue doing, these balance patches. But maybe some content as well. Like we have an engine that is very easy for us to do more content because we can create, new stuff with templates and everything. The game is coded in a way that it's very expandable, so we can use that as well to give more support.
Once again, one of those things that's hard to ask, but have you given any contemplation to different platforms?
Yes, we definitely want to be on more platforms. Like right now, because it's early access, we can't. But in the future, we really want to port this to consoles, maybe even mobile, because really being a card game, you kind of it's a wasted opportunity, right? To not port it. I think we have a map that is very complex, so I'm not sure about mobile, but console 100%. We should be there because we already have some people even asking for it. So I think this game could be ported to consoles, and it will be worth it 100%.
Indeed. Probably, if you had to pick one, I see this being on the Switch, Switch family of platforms.
Yeah, like handheld, right? Because that helps a lot. Yeah.
Indeed. And along those lines, have you contemplated a mobile version?
I would love to. Honestly, the thing is, I know like one of the quirks of our game is that it has a lot of text, right? And the smaller you go with the screen, the more difficult it is to show all these words. But if we can, I would love to do it, right? And if mobile can run the 3D graphics well enough, right? I would love to.
I mean, there's a couple different ways around that. One would be to develop for tablets instead of going universal. Right. But I suppose another would be like working that out via a Switch version, because that is a problem that would be there as well. Potentially even worse, because if you're building for the Switch 1, it's got a 720p screen, so text can look pretty blurry as well as small.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
yeah. It will be a challenge anyway. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I suppose that's all in the future. Right. So I've run through my gamut of questions. I will see, once again, turn to my colleagues to see if they have any final things to ask at this stage.
Unfortunately, I missed a lot of the interview, so I don't know if any of the questions I have got asked already, so I'm going to pass.
I think all mine have been gone over.
All right. All right. So, yeah. I want to thank you, Mauro, for being with us here today to talk about Into the Grid. It's been a very lovely conversation.
Thank you,
sounds
Alan.
like, indeed, it sounds like progress is going well, and we look forward to seeing how it all works out.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and it was a pleasure to answer the questions and chat a bit about the game.
Right, so the game is Into the Grid. It's currently retailing for $14.99 USD base price, but it's on sale right now for 20% off, $11.99 USD. Be sure to pick it up today before the price increases to either 20 or 25. That's still pending, or at the very least, wish list it today. Right, so that'll about do it for this installment. Be sure to tune in next time, as always, for the Sunday reviews. And until then, I shall wish you good gaming.